So today we've got the handover for a Benimar 313 Primo. We've got a fuel filler cap with the AdBlue system. The AdBlue is monitored by a dashboard indicator, and then it's the ignition key into the diesel filler to gain access to that. There's no spare wheel on the vehicle. There's a refill kit elsewhere, but there is still a tool kit underneath the passenger seat, and underneath the cab floor you've got your engine battery access. Bonnet release on the end of the dashboard. Bonnet release is just to the centre. Pull up on the yellow tab and extend your arm up. Over on the left hand side you've got your screen wash, and then your brake fluid, power steering fluid, and radiator reservoir. Oil filler on top of the block, and an oil dipstick just in front of it. Should you ever need to jump start the vehicle, over on the right hand side you've got this metal paddle. It's normally got a little cover over the top of it. Pop that one up, and that positive of your jump leads goes onto there, and the negative goes onto the bolt in the centre of the engine bay. When we move round onto the off side of the vehicle, you've got your exhaust vent for the water heating, room heating system. If it's operating on gas, you get a little condensation plume coming off the back of that. You've got your mains lead alongside. Always recommend that you connect to the side of the van first of all before you connect to your base supply. So cap to 90 degrees and then slide and push in like so, and then turn on your main supply at the other end. Further back along the van, you've got your fresh water filler cap. So the tank is located underneath the forward facing seat. Hose pipe straight in, and then you can then fill up from there. All of your wastewater from your shower tray, from your kitchen sink, from your vanity unit goes down into a holding tank, and the release lever for that holding tank is this plastic lever here. So it's out at the moment, which means water will get ejected. Push it in, and that shuts that lever off and stores that wastewater. Just above that you've got your toilet cassette. Flush water comes directly from your inboard fresh water tank, so you just have the cassette to be concerned with. As long as the lever's shut internally, you should be able to pull up on the blue lever at the base, slide the whole cassette out, go over to your sluice, take the blue cap off at the top, tip the whole thing up, and when you press in on the button, that releases air, which allows then the waste to come out. Before you load it back in, there's a measuring cup inside the top of the cap. So up to a capful of your green chemical, or the sachets that we use up here in the Highlands, mix with about 2 litres of water, and then load the cassette back in, ready for the next use. Alongside, you've got a garage, which will take you into the bed sleeping area at the back. Always get the wrong key. You can internally fold up these bed storage areas, so if you want more storage through that bed space, then you can do that as well. And we've got the awning handle in there. We'll show you the awning shortly. When you come around to the back of the van, up at the top we've got your reversing camera. I've already unlocked this Fiamma Ultra box. The existing bike rack brackets are on the garage floor. If you want to, you can undo these wing nuts which disconnect U-bolts, and then you can take the back box off and then just use it as a regular bike rack. Another garage access on the opposite side, wider aperture, and you can see more clearly that these boards fold up. So you've got storage then in underneath. Ventilation for the fridge. Make sure that these vents don't get blocked up, so try and avoid having the garage door open for too long. It suffocates and causes problems within the fridge. So we're coming to the gas locker. We'll undo the door. You've got a standard 6 kilogram propane cylinder inside. You turn the gas supply on and off via the brass knob on top of the bottle. If you need to change the cylinder over, there's a spanner in there as well. So we've got the gas supply on by turning it anti-clockwise to get gas through to the rest of the vehicle. So there's a Fiamma awning. Put the hook through the eyelet and wind your awning out. These are sunshades, so if it's wet or windy, the advice is to put them away. Wind it out to a point where you can reach the inside of the pelmet. There are 2 pairs of legs, one at each end. Lower them down and lock them off into position. If you need to wind the awning out any further, then walk the legs out and you can adjust the height accordingly. If the awning's wet at all, at the earliest opportunity, get it dried off, stops them from smelling, and then pelmets, legs clip back in, and then you can wind the awning back in via the eyelet at the end. So we've moved inside the van and you've got your 12-volt control panel. You'll need to access this in order to turn on lights and igniters. So top left-hand switch, press and turn on, holding for a couple of seconds, and that activates your 12-volt control panel. Turn that one on and that will then allow you access to your lights. If you're going to be using the water system, I would recommend you use the water pump on demand. Press that switch and that will illuminate, and you have an on-off switch for the outside awning light. Below you've got level indicators for your battery level, for the leisure battery, for the cab battery, for your fresh water level, and then the ability to brighten or dim the control panel itself. The trimmer water heater room heating system is a common unit amongst manufacturers. For its operation, depress in on the central black button and you'll see a clock display come up. Currently we're plugged in onto the mains, so you'll see this symbol occur here. Press on the dial again and you'll see a selection of characters come across the top, and you'll see that this one, the thermostat inside a vehicle, is showing flashing. Press on that one and you have the option of setting your temperature control up to a maximum of 30 degrees centigrade. Whilst it's trying to attain that temperature, this top symbol up here will also flash as well. Once it becomes solid, then it's an indication that it's reached that threshold. It's a similar story with the water heating system. So we go on to that thermostat symbol that's showing in the water ripples. Depress on that one and you have a choice of water heating settings. It can be put into an eco mode, which is about approximately 40 degrees centigrade, or it can be put into a hot mode, 60 degrees, perhaps if you were taking a shower. You have the option of boosting the temperature periodically if that's required. Again, when you select that, you'll notice that the hot symbol on the top line starts to flash, indicating that the water hasn't reached that temperature setting as yet. Once that becomes solid, then you're there. You have a choice of utilities that you can access on this. This is the gas version, so the first one that will come up will be on there. If you're operating it on diesel, then it will use the word fuel instead. If you select on gas, then you're operating purely on a gas system. A 12-volt igniter, a 12-volt circulation fan, perhaps if the heating is being used, but otherwise it's a pure gas setup. You can change that setting to an electrical setup. Single spark at the top indicates that you're using a 900-watt electric element. Twin spark indicates that you're using approximately an 1800-watt electric element. That's going to be subject to the amount of amperage that's available for you to use on a campsite. There is a mix mode as well, where you can choose to use a combination of gas and electric, either on the lower electric setting or on the higher electric setting. It won't make the vehicle get any hotter, but it will obviously improve the performance and the rate that the vehicle gets warmer. There's a circulation fan. It's normally set in the eco mode, but again, if it's a cold day, you can increase it to a high mode and it will intensify the air circulation within the van. If we turn off the water heating and we turn off the room heating system, then you can come back over to the fan symbol on its own and you can actually use it just as a pure recirculation fan. It's not air conditioning, but it may be in conjunction with the roof lights or the windows being open. It'll improve the air circulation around the vehicle. You can speed control it by turning the dial up and down, and then switch it back off by turning it off. Clock setting, simple and straightforward. Access it, set it to the day, time, modes, and that's your clock set. If you use that setting, then you can also then set up a rudimentary timer. So tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning and going off at 8 o'clock at night, you can have your room heating system set up so that it cuts in at 18 degrees, and your water heater coming in on its electric mode, and the fan running in that setup, and then select on, and you'll see that symbol then. So all the time that it's within that time frame against the clock, you will have it operating in those modes. If you want to deselect it, just turn it off, and you'll see that the symbols all disappear. Settings mode enables you to set up temperatures, the brightness of the control panel. You can also do resets on the panel as well. If you're not using the system, then press and hold on this one and you'll see an off word appear and it will system shut down. If there are any faults with the system, perhaps because the gas isn't switched on or the electric's not operational, you'll quite often see a triangle and a fault code. Follow your instruction manuals for that fault code to diagnose and perhaps clear the fault. We'll just turn it off now. So the drain valve for the water heater is located in the U-shaped lounge of the dinette. It's down onto the floor with the blue lever in line. It's allowing water to flow through. It can snap open if the air temperature drops below about 2 degrees inside that airspace. Turn it back in line and push the small blue button in on the back of the housing to reset it. And that's normally done around about +8. Adjacent to that, you've got your freshwater tank. You can take the black cap off for inspection and for adding in solvents or cleaners. The drain point is underneath the van. There's a blue tap that you turn in line to allow the content of the freshwater tank to drain off. On the dinette window, you'll notice this small black box. It's got a pressure switch in it. It's connected to the gas exhaust and for the gas system to the water heater room heating system. If this window is open, it shuts off the gas operation of the water heater, but effectively stopping any monoxide from coming back up in. So if you have issues with it not working, check and make sure that the window is shut, first of all. When you open up the kitchen door below the sink, you've got some individual isolator taps for the gas appliances. So you turn on and turn off at the bottle, but you can isolate the oven, the water heating, room heating system, and the fridge by turning the knobs through 90 degrees to isolate. When you've changed over a gas bottle, it's worthwhile just burning some gas off on the hob, just to ensure you've got that continuity of supply coming through. So hold them in for a couple of seconds. There's no isolators on these lids, so you need to make sure that the appliance is switched off and cooled. And obviously advisory to anybody who's coming in and where they place their hands if they're coming in through the door. The electric hob will only work if you are connected to the mains, and you should see a corresponding red light on the front of the appliance. Grill and oven, combi unit, so turn in one direction and your oven will light up at the back. Turn in the opposite direction and the grill will light from the top. So your fridge controls for the Thetford, they're three-way. So press in and hold on the raised switch for a couple of seconds and you'll see all of the display light up. Press the first square in and you can choose between the different settings. So at the moment we've got it operating on gas. We can move it back towards vehicle battery when the vehicle is travelling. It can go into a mains mode or it can go into an automatic mode where it self-detects. Press the button to confirm and then you can adjust your thermostat by increasing or decreasing the number of blue boxes that are illuminated. And that holds the setting for a couple of seconds. So we've got it on mains auto because that's what it's self-detecting, and it will go from there. After a few seconds that fades out and you're just left with a small blue button light that comes onto there. If that blue LED becomes red, then it indicates there's a fault within the circuit. And by turning it back on again, you can see where that fault is. Typically, it might be perhaps because there's no gas supply coming through or you're not connected up to the vehicle in the correct method or format. To turn the appliance off, hold it in for a couple of seconds until all of the blue lights fade out. So for the operation of the toilet, it has got a silver bowl system to it. Pull your lever across to allow the waste to go through. Has an electric flush which is operated from the fresh water tank, so the flush water goes around the inside of the bowl as much or as little as you think you need, and shut your lever over afterwards. And then you have an indicator. This will basically gradually work its way over from green to red as the base cassette progressively becomes full. Privacy within the vehicle is provided by the overhead cab curtains. Still probably recommend that you get a set of silver screens for extra insulation if you're using the van during the winter months. You have your electric window controls at the back of the driver's door, and then towards the front you have a small toggle switch which you can use for adjusting your blind spot and main mirrors on either side of the vehicle. Just around from and behind the steering wheel, you've got your headlamp adjustment for leveling the headlamps for the weight comparison that's in the back, and also a rear fog lamp. The steering wheel controls are not connected to the head unit. You have to operate that on the fascia panel. Wiper controls over on the right hand side, and then on the left you've got your lights and indicators, and then below that your speed limiter and cruise control. There's traction control and hill descent, as well as a means of locking the cab. You have to lock the habitation door separately, and then you have heated mirrors. Above that you've got your ventilation controls for the speed of the fan and temperature, and then for your internal and external ventilation, as well as the direction of the fan. With the fan on, you should be able to illuminate that switch, and that will give you your cab air conditioning. Volume controls are over on the right hand side for the stereo, and you have a home button for taking it back and for your connections to other devices. When the engine is on, you have a permanent image on your reversing camera. You can opt, if you're driving through the night, to turn it off like so. So that concludes the handover for your Benimar Primo 313. Sincerely hope that you've enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, obviously you can get in contact with us, but on behalf of Heineken Camper Vans, thank you very much for watching.